So good evening and welcome to our service this evening. We're going to have a special treat for you tonight. We're going to have Janniece McDonald, Reverend Janniece McDonald, teach us about some of the tarot cards, and one in particular is the Justice card. So I'm really looking forward to learning about that and putting more depth to the meaning of what that card means. So I do have a little saying to open up with in regards to justice. It says, true peace is not merely the absence of war, it is the presence of justice. So I thought that was quite appropriate for what we're doing today, and that was by Jane Addams. So we're going to start out with an opening prayer from Dick Walker.
Thank you, Madge. From the Home Center Ministerial Team, our opening prayer is from the Minister of Prayer, Reverend Joe Pinecoffer. This evening, as Reverend Janiece enlightens us on her use of the tools of tarot, know these tools are available to all of us for our spiritual lives. As she introduces specific tarot cards, take notice how the chosen card becomes a tool that can resonate with you emotionally, that you can feel comfortable with its energy and motion or emotion. She is divinely guided in her understanding of her tarot cards, and we in turn are divinely blessed as she freely shares her spiritual knowledge with us this evening. In God and Christ, love and light, amen. And I'll turn it back to Reverend Madge.
Thank you for that beautiful prayer. I appreciate that very much. So we will proceed with Reverend Janniece McDonald. So welcome.
Thank you, Madge. And thank you, Dick. And thank you, Joe. Well, good evening. We've got some hot days we've experienced this week, and my topic this evening is a political hot topic, the topic of justice. I'm going to use the tarot card Justice as it relates to balance and fairness. But before I begin talking specifically about that card, I want to just give you my brief history. I discovered the tarot after the sudden death of my husband. I was looking for answers. Now before, my experience with the tarot cards where they were just a pile of beautiful or confusing, maybe disturbing pictures. They made no sense to me at all. And yet, someone could pick them up, I'd draw some cards, and actually it got creepy sometimes, how accurate they were. So after the death of my husband, I was looking for tools. And I tried several tools, but found that the tarot just spoke to me. Before, when it didn't make sense, they became 78 individual works of art. Individual cards that represented the energies and intentions of their creator. They became a clear communication with my higher self and with the divine. Now, I've always been intuitive, but the tools that the tarot has opened up to me I've just been really blessed. I see pictures, I hear words, I have a knowing. The tarot has emphasized all of those. Well, except for the fact that I do sometimes smell my dad's cigarette smoke. The 78 cards, and most of you may know this already, but the 78 cards that we use today are divided up into 5 suits. The first suit, and the largest suit, is called the Major Arcana, or the Major Mysteries. They're numbered between 0 and 21. These 22 cards represent 22 archetypes, or major events that most of us humans go throughout our lives. Of these, the Justice card can be numbered with the number 8 or the number 11, and I'll explain why later. The tarot card that you see over my shoulder is the oldest card that's been discovered that represents justice. This comes from an anniversary celebration cards that were done by the Sforza Italian family in 1448. They were celebrating their 10th anniversary. Now these people were really wealthy because these cards at that time were all painted by the masters. They were small but intensely beautiful works of art. They were used in a game that had various names, but the primary game was Tarucci, and that's actually where our term tarot comes from, was the Tarucci card game. Now in Italy, this Justice card and Justice is represented by the Roman goddess Justia, and that's who this is here. She personifies justice, and as you can see, and in most Justice cards, at least the more traditional ones, she always has in her right hand the sword, a sword pointing to the sky, and of course it's there to punish the wicked. In her left hand she has a scale, and the scale weighs evidence. In most of the older cards you'll find a knight, and the knight represents chivalry, the first rule of chivalry, to defend that which is fair and just. In our next group of cards, 3, you'll find more traditional cards and maybe see one that you've actually seen. The one at the top is much older than the other two. The other two come from the early 19th century or mid-19th century. But if you look at all 3 of them, they're looking right at you. They are focused. They're clear thinkers. At this time, from the 1400s, 1500s onward, someone who was blindfolded was considered ignorant. Now, the earliest cards have the number 8 for a specific reason. The number 8 stood for blessings of virtue, and and 8 blessings of virtue, and 8 punishments of the damned. A little bit later on, the 8 represented the commitment to truth. Now, there's a sequence in the tarot cards. The Hermit follows at number 9. The Hermit follows, and actually it's believed that the truth that is acquired with the number 8 prepares the Hermit for his time of withdrawal. In this next group of pictures, you'll see a very modern interpretation of the number 8. Very clearly, she's clearly focusing on you. The other card, though, is that transition card to the number 11, and she's blindfolded. Our modern cards have evolved from a group called the Golden Dawn. It was a cult that originated in England in the late 1900s. And at that time, the tarot cards became very serious divination cards. And this group decided they wanted to formalize that. So there were several systems that broke off from this Golden Dawn cult. And one of them is called the Rider-Waite system, which is the one that seems to be the most popular, and most people are most familiar with those cards. You can see she's blindfolded. And how do we feel about blindfolded? Does that interpret justice better than a clear-eyed focus? Also, the number being changed to 11 represents the numerological number 2. 11 breaks down to 2, which references the energies of choice. The other reason that it was given 11 is it's following the number 10 card, which is the Wheel of Fortune. Now, the Wheel of Fortune is pretty simple in its balance. What goes up must come down. It's also the reminder of the Buddhist concept of cause and effect, the Christian concept of sin and redemption, and the Hindu laws of karma. In our next picture, we have the Egyptian goddess Mott, who stands for truth and justice. and she is blindfolded. In her scales, she's weighing the souls of the dead. On the one side, she has an ostrich feather. It's her feather of truth. She's weighing that against the heart, which is viewed as the seat of the intellect and emotion. In the next set of cards, we're looking at nature's balance. Now remember, our reference to the tarot cards involves balance and fairness. Now with balance in the first card, we've got a very clear indication, and hopefully you can see that little frog at the bottom. This is the cycle of life. The frog is eaten by the snake is eaten by the coyote is recycled into mushrooms. That's a clear cycle of life. But also the balance aspect, you'll see in the other card, where you've got your life and then you've got your death. And as we know, we have to have this balance in order for nature to continue, for nature to be nurtured. Now, I've had an experience about a couple of weeks ago. Friday mornings, I've set aside to do my spiritual work with Mother Nature. And so I was meditating, but I couldn't, because I've been working on this subject of justice, I couldn't get the word justice out of my head. And I tried and I tried and I tried. And then I saw myself standing in front of my garbage can. My garbage can was to the left, my recycling can was to the right. And as we all have been experiencing, we just can't recycle like we used to, and that has really, really bothered me. That has been it's such a prominent daily reminder of how out of balance I know I am in the refuse that I create. So I found myself in front of my garbage can, but I also heard the word gratitude. Gratitude. Well, that didn't make sense. How can there be balance in a full garbage can and an almost empty recycling can? And then I realized, or maybe I didn't realize, but I heard that anytime that we are honoring the earth, anytime we are in gratitude for the beauty that surrounds us, when we are in gratitude for the colors, particularly the colors we are blessed with here in Western Oregon, that gratitude with nature can bring us back in balance. Well, and then also I saw that when another aspect of bringing back in balance is pulling weeds. While I'm pulling weeds, not being angry, but being grateful that I have the ability to pull a weed. So our next picture is an even more modern creator. Actually, this deck is one of my very favorites. She has taken and made such a joy out of each card, even when the cards are very serious. So her take on the Justice card is kind of a tough one. She's working with fairness, the tough choices of fairness. The little owl at the top of the tree stump is her higher self, and she's weighing the value of the present with a live chickie in the nest, weighing it against the future of 3 eggs, the potential. Now when I pull a Justice card, sometimes I do feel that it's asking for me to make a choice, and a fair choice. Once again, that word fair comes up. In the next card photo, you'll see 2 cards that are in many ways, very black and white. Fairness versus balance through logic and reason. You'll see no humanity represented here. And sometimes I question, can justice be black and white? If it's only viewed as a balance? The statement, justice is blind, but can that be fair? Now, when I was pulling together this this talk, I asked friends and family if they would tell me what justice meant for them. Almost everyone, the first word that came out, or the first word they texted me, was the word balance. But I did have a few interesting comebacks that made me think, yes, justice is balance. It's quite clearly balanced because there's a scale. But one of my cousins said, in the next photo, you'll see, justice is a verb. She said it's an action. The creator of this card, her statement is, justice affirms that your action has an impact. Someone else that I interviewed said, justice is an action that should be born out of understanding. I had a different cousin who pointed out, and it should include civility. And then another cousin, I have very, very talkative cousins. Actually, we were on the back porch sharing all of this the night that we were able to see the comet. And my youngest cousin said, well, I don't matter, whatever you guys think, justice begins with me. I think he said that just so he didn't have to define what it meant for him, but he has a real good point, very good point. Another friend who lives out of state sent me a quote by Cornel West. Never forget that justice is what love looks like in public. Now that one I have to think about, because right now we are publicly, all over the world, really wrestling with what justice means. Another friend, actually this morning, just under the wire, sent me his interpretation. Justice is responsibility for the person that harmed, and they need to make it right. Now his honey, she shared her attitude about justice. To her, it's fairness for all in all things. In our next picture, you're going to see an elephant. This creator of this deck, which is an all-animal deck, takes on the surface appears to be a gentler approach to the tarot cards. With this card, she says, play fair, love true, live in harmony. I have a very good friend and a reverend here at the Home Center, Deborah Day, who I've chosen to read her take on what justice means. She says it beautifully. Justice among humans is generally our endeavor to bring fairness and equality to all, where the same privileges and opportunities are available to all, where no one gains at the expense of another, where there is balance, and no one is taking or giving too much, but it comes with responsibility. There is also justice between humans and animals, the earth and all her ecology. And a universal justice exists, which may at times truly be beyond our understanding. The last picture I want to share with you, I believe, ties back into the original, the very first work of art that I started with. And this, to me, is truly a work of art on so many levels. The creator of this card is, well, let me back up. This deck is one of the reasons that I collect tarot cards, because they are 78 beautiful works of art that make you think. Each one has a different energy, and the energies can change depending on their content. The name of this deck is the Telluric Tarot. Her name is Lumira Gold. She lives in Canada. She's a botanical illustrator and a GIA gemologist. The name of this deck, or this card, that represents justice is truth and consequences. This card represents the opal and the diphilia. So I'm going to read what she has said about this card. Opal is believed to be a good luck stone since it holds all the other gemstones' virtues within its multicolored fire. It is simultaneously deemed unlucky due to its tendency to crack under abrupt temperature changes because of its high water content. The flower diphilia is white in the sun, but it turns transparent as glass in the rain. The petals absorb water, transmitting the light instead of reflecting it. Now what she says when you pull this card is, this is her message: a time for accountability and resolution is at hand. Whether a choice or consequence will be favored or not depends on how honest and true to your own word and values you choose to be. Align yourself with the truth and complete transparency, even when it involves revealing your own mistakes or faults. Good grace and making amends will serve you well. If the fault or issue lays with others, you will be absolved. Apply the same honesty and fairness when making a judgment or decision. Now this brings me back to my question that I've questioned when I've seen all these different justice cards. Can justice be fair and balanced? And I want you to ask yourself, if you're so inclined, what does justice mean to you? But one of the things I have learned through this intense study of the justice card is that I truly believe justice does begin with me. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Janiece, for that beautiful lesson. I learned so much, and I certainly hope all of you have learned equally as much, and maybe even more, and feel inspired to learn a little more about this beautiful art and this study. Janiece has just done a superb job with that, and she's available for readings, I believe, also. Maybe we'll put a little plug in for her information for that. She does a really nice job. So the tarot cards for here at the Home Center, we look at them as tools, and they're wonderful, useful tools. We always encourage everybody to think for themselves, decide for themselves of what's right for them. And there are many tools that Spirit uses to give us information. And for us, in our thinking about these kinds of tools, they're not associated with a particular religious path or religious label. They're just tools that Spirit uses to help us out. Because Spirit doesn't waste any opportunity for giving us answers, for giving us what we're asking for, which is guidance, direction, inspiration. And whether that message comes from another person, from a tarot card, from an intuitive reader, from an animal spirit that crosses our path, Spirit will always use everything it can to get the information we need to live the best life we can. So the tarot cards is one of those beautiful tools that is used. So I hope you've enjoyed this today, and take it to heart, and be well, my friends.